Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I am joined here, as always, by the man who has also come back from down 16-3. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good. Not quite 16-3, but it's a I got a little comeback on my hands after this week's picks. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, you have plenty of areas to have to come back. It was a tough week for you, picks wise, Kyle.
Yeah, not doing too good myself.
This might have been the worst, might have been the most lopsided week of all time, potentially. It was a 4-point swing.
No, week one, there was one week that I lost by 5 points.
Was there? Okay.
Yeah.
It was a tough one. It's up there.
Yeah, this was rough. It's okay. We'll bounce back.
Yes, we have a super chat already before we even started the show. Thank you, Joe.
So, thank you.
Well, Jackson, our teams are both screwed. IDK, what's going on between Brady and Evans, but Levante David is really good. Yeah, that kind of just summed up the season right there, Joe.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. They're rough, that's for sure.
Yes. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Very fascinating Sunday night game between the Dolphins and the Chargers. As always, we're going to start off with that one as interesting game. Tua ended up with a completion percentage over expected of minus 24.6. That's never good. This was not Tua's best performance, I think it's fair to say. There was a weird, Tyreek Hill had two incredible plays. One was on a fumble recovery for a touchdown. But as a whole, outside of that, Dolphins offense didn't get much going against a defense that hasn't played well this year.
Yeah. They haven't played well this year, but they definitely played well in this game. I thought they had a good strategy. I know Miami was down a few guys, but this felt like the first miss for Mike McDaniel this season. Like the first real, this one feels off. I didn't love the game plan in this game. I thought it was weird. I mean, I know this is a pass first football team, and I get it. This is a passing league, all of that. But I mean, we've been talking for 2 years about what this Chargers run defense is, and what they can't do, which is stop the run. And at one point, Tua was 5 of 20, and the running game was averaging almost 5 yards a carry. They ended up 4.8 yards per carry. I know they ended up down, but they weren't down a lot in this game. I felt like there was opportunities to kind of run the ball a little bit, go out this defense where it's at its weakest, and they just didn't do it. It seemed like large stretches of this game.
Yeah, I think that might be fair to say. I think that's probably reasonable. Listen, if I was a play caller and I had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on my team, I'd probably be wanting to throw the ball a lot as well. I get it, but yeah, I think especially in hindsight, we can sit here and say maybe not the preferred move.
Yeah, but I mean, the story of this game is not Tua. Miami's inability to run the ball. This was Tua versus Herbert. This is what we wanted to see, right? Mm-hmm. Tua versus Herbert. This is the story. This feels like a pretty big win in the Team Herbert campaign, right? I mean, he was unbelievable in this game. I don't think the numbers even do him justice. It was every big throw it seemed like he needed to make, he made it. They're still terrible in the red zone, but at the same time, they got enough done, it seems like, at that spot. Herbert made some big throws, and Tua really struggled.
Yeah, Herbert has to be the league leader in really impressive 23-point victory games where the offense scores 23 points.
Yes.
It feels like exactly 23 points every game. I don't know what it is. I have 23. That's the perfect amount that the Chargers score.
And this offense still drives me crazy too. This is another one where it's just one of those offenses where it's Herbert takes a few shots here and there, but it seems like everything else is thrown at the line of scrimmage or a few yards ahead of the line of scrimmage. Everything, it seems like that. They were 9 of 18 on third down. This is probably the best what this offense will look like because they're able to convert those third downs at such a high rate. But there's other games we've seen this season where they're not converting those third downs, and this looks just rough. And it's a lot worse than this game. But Yeah, I mean, I think, this was definitely a better game, and, having elite players back helps. But yeah, I mean, this was a step in the right direction for the Chargers.
Yeah, definitely. As Mike Williams and Keenan Allen over 200 yards combined between the two of those guys and 18 total catches. That obviously helps. As Elijah points out in the chat, another legendary roughing the passer penalty. Absolutely. Again, those are just baffling. Kyle, is there anyone who isn't a Dolphins fan who is team Tua over Herbert here?
Um, Probably not. I don't. I guess we could ask Emmanuel Acho if he still is, but I don't think
Right.
anybody should be. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, it felt like one quarterback was clearly better than the other tonight, right? Like, I mean, it just was. There's no debate on it. Miami didn't have a single red zone trip. Like, if what's his name, Tyreek didn't go nuts on that, fumble recovery, this probably is a really ugly performance from Miami.
yeah, and then again, and then that other, I mean, that was that other Tyreek Hill play. Like those were the two plays basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really was. It was two plays. That was basically the whole offense in this game. So at this point now, because I started doing, I started putting together MVP lists this week. I started looking
Okay.
at playoff schedule. I felt like this is the week where we can finally start to talk about this stuff. There's what, 4 games left after this?
Mm-hmm.
So Chargers are currently in. They're the 7th team in the playoffs. They have the tiebreaker over the Jets. The Patriots play tomorrow. They can tie up with those two teams as well. How do you feel about the Chargers now going into the final weeks after what we saw today?
So I actually did the ESPN playoff machine. I still have them missing the playoffs. I still don't quite have them in there. They're close. I think they need one more game to go their way to get in, but I have them as try to pull it up right here where I put it. But I have them as this with same record 9-8 with the Jets, and I believe the Jets have the tiebreaker in that scenario.
Okay. I mean, it's possible. Three of 4 to end the season also isn't unreasonable for this team right now.
Sure.
With home to Tennessee, home for Tennessee, at Indianapolis, home for the Rams, and at Denver. I mean, I would say right now I'd probably put them favored in 3 of those games. The way Tennessee's playing, they've lost 3 in a row. They might be favored in all 4 of those.
Yeah, it's you're probably right. Yeah. No. They're a team that definitely has a chance to. They're totally bubble. I could see it going either way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to come down to all this. I still think the Patriots just have too tough of a schedule, but them and the Jets are definitely in the conversation. I feel like that, they have winnable games down the stretch. They have an opportunity to take this. The Chargers have a big step in the right direction though with this one, because this was their toughest win down the stretch. This is a game that we probably looked at as a loss remaining on their schedule. Flipping this into a win, I think is a huge thing in their book, because I think they might have, of those 3 teams, they have the most favorable down the stretch, and that's not even getting to teams like Jacksonville at 5-8, Raiders at 5-8. We're probably not going to, Browns and Steelers at 5-8. We're probably not including those teams in the conversation 2 games back.
Yeah. Should be an interesting game, but you're right. This was the win they needed to get, and they got it. Let's go to let's go to one of the afternoon games. As you know, all the afternoon games started off rough, but a couple of them got interesting. One of them very much did not. But let's go Seahawks Panthers. Why don't we? As a surprise, an upset here, as the one game back Carolina Panthers, who control their own destiny if they want to get into the playoffs here. It's as crazy as it sounds, with Sam Darnold, had 5 yards per attempt, so he was just barely not in the Blaine Gabbert zone. But hey, you'll take it with Sam Darnold. The Carolina Panthers beat the Seattle Seahawks. I think the biggest story here is the couple interceptions from Geno Smith. Not his best day.
No, it was definitely one of his worst games of the season, and the Seahawks team is slowly but surely losing its steam. Basically, right? They're now 2 games back of San Francisco. They're now clinging on to a playoff spot, a lot like them and the Giants were kind of the darlings early in the season. It seems like both of them might miss out now. I mean, it's a possibility now at this point. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, they're struggling down the stretch of this season, and I think the offense slowing down a little bit has been a big part of it, right? Like, I think this team could do a lot when this offense was operating like a top 5 offense. When they're not going to operate like a top 5 offense, they're not going to win a lot of games.
Right. That's just the thing is it's very funny because they went and got rid of Russell Wilson, but they're still essentially the same team they were when they were good with Russell Wilson. Of just they're entirely dependent on two good wide receivers and their quarterback. This time it's a different quarterback. They still have some other pieces, of course, but again, really it was just the kind of the couple mistakes that the Seahawks made in this one was really I felt like the difference of the 2-0 turnover battle when you're playing Sam Darnold. Like winning 2-0 feels like a loss. Like losing 2-0 in turnover battle is huge, and that's other than that, I think the Seahawks were the better team in this one. But when you lose a turnover battle like that, that's what happens.
Yeah. And Steve Wilkes is doing a nice job with this team. This defense, I think, is playing at a pretty good level for Carolina. They're getting after the quarterback. They're getting hits, which I think is a big part of it. And I think the secondary has started to play pretty well, too. And then it's all about ball control. They ran the ball 46 times to passing 24. I mean, that's a huge discrepancy. That they want to control the clock. They want to limit possessions, and they were able to do that and still score 30 points, which is impressive, no doubt. Darnold wasn't great in this game, but like you said, he did take care of the ball, and that's all they needed.
Kyle, I have to say, are we buying Panthers playoff stock here? It's possible. We have to have they're a game back, and they play Tampa Bay week 17, so they control their own destiny. And you look at their schedule; they play the Steelers next week, they play the Lions, and then they play the Saints week 18. So those are their 4 games. If they beat Tampa Bay, they're probably in. Like that's probably all they have to do.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting down the stretch. So Tampa has Cincinnati at Arizona, then it's Panthers Falcons. Panthers have Bucs Saints to end the season, Steelers Lions. So, what do you think is going to be the record of the team that wins this division? Are you going 8-9?
I think maybe I'm wrong. I still think Tampa Bay ends up they lose to the Bengals and then they win the last 3. But probably even 8-9 would be. I still think that I take Tampa Bay over Arizona, Carolina, and Atlanta. That's what I'm still thinking happens. I know today was rough, but that's my expectation. I think one team will at least get 8 wins.
Okay, you mean 9 wins or 8?
8. One team will at least get 8. I think whether it's Carolina going 3-1 or Tampa Bay going, what would that be? 2-3.
Yeah, I think I'm still leaning that too. But yeah, I mean, Tampa hasn't helped themselves. That's for sure. They're not playing good football. Carolina's, putting together a little bit. They've won 2 in a row. They're in the conversation now. They face they got the Lions are basically a juggernaut now, so it's not easy games down the stretch, but the path is there for them.
Yeah, and I guess the other side is, are we buying Seahawks making the playoffs? I'm not. I think the Seahawks are out. They play the 49ers next week, the Chiefs the week after, then the Jets, and finally the Rams week 18. But then you have Baker Mayfield, who I guess is doing good. I think that they go 1-3 here. I'm not even sure if they finish 500.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I gotta say no. I mean, I think the Cowboys are a lock to get in, right? I would put Washington over them right now. I still think Washington's a better team, despite Taylor Heineke being Taylor Heineke. And then, I still think it could be the Giants. I think it could be Detroit. I think it could be, I think either one of those teams could easily jump them before the end of the season.
Yeah, a disappointing second half of the season for Seattle after such an optimistic first half.
Is Geno a free agent?
I believe he has one more year.
One more year?
You might be right. Okay. I can double check that, but yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd be interested to see how that plays out this offseason.
Yeah, should be some interesting stuff. Let's move on. Why don't we? Let's go to let's see. It's hard to figure out which games we should go to here. It's a very weird week. Let's go Lions Vikings. Why don't we? I for one welcome our Detroit Lions overlords as we sort of said here. Why are the Lions favored over the Vikings? It felt like it was weird. It felt like the Vikings deserved to be the favorites. Well, here's why. The Lions show up. Their offense continues to play effective. Jared Goff, all of a sudden, Jared Goff did not have a great first half of the season, but he's been playing very well as of late. DJ Chark has all of a sudden become like a consistent win on the outside guy. I don't know what happened there. Jamison Williams had his still only catch in the NFL, which is a 41-yard touchdown. So there you go. Very efficient there. And then Penei Sewell had a catch in this one. I mean, Kyle, we're talking about playoffs a lot with this one. I think the Lions, I think they're going to make it. I think they're going to make it.
I mean, they're red hot right now. They're playing some great football. I mean, this offense, when it's working, it can really roll. And then, I mean, the defense wasn't as great in this game as everyone was hoping it would. It had been playing well the past few weeks. They didn't really stop the pass this week, but they got enough done. It seems like they got some opportunistic stops. They capitalized on some turnover stuff. And all of a sudden, that was the difference in this game. Detroit's offense, I mean, if you play mistake-free football and you average, 6 yards a play almost, you're going to win a lot of football games, right? And that's
Yeah.
exactly what they did in this one.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, this was a fantastic game for them to win. Weird game where, yeah, like I said, Kirk Cousins had 425 yards on 41 attempts, which is just absurd. Over 10 yards per attempt on 41 attempts. Like that, is incredibly difficult to do. Vikings lost 2 fumbles that, obviously hurt. One of those was, near the end zone. Justin Jefferson broke the Vikings receiving record for most yards in a game in a Vikings uniform, which is, impressive. A lot of good receivers have played there. But couple of splash plays, right? That's what kind of the Lions do, is that fake punt, which Dan Campbell, king of the fake punt.
King of the fake punt, Jamison Williams, one catch, 41 yards, a touchdown. His first catch of the year was a touchdown. I mean, all of this stuff was awesome to see. I mean, it was pretty cool to see this Detroit team just kind of go at them. And I know the Vikings were down some guys, but Detroit really took it to them and looked awesome. I think this Minnesota stats are misleading in this game. For the first quarter and then first half and then the first drive, this looked like a Mike Zimmer offense. I thought they were working way too hard to establish the run. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, Dalvin Cook stopped on 4th down. Detroit goes down and scores. Dalvin Cook fumbles at the 3-yard line. Detroit goes down. I mean, they ended up missing the field goal, so it wasn't too bad. But you still, you basically cost yourself at least 3 points in that sequence. And then they go 3 and out, and then Detroit goes up 21-7, goes down and scores. All of a sudden, then right after that, Minnesota starts going nuts through the air, and then it's touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and then they end the game with the late fumble, but it was basically over at that time anyway. I just thought it was, a lot of establishing the run. The run was definitely established in this game for Minnesota early on, and I thought it was a mistake because Cousins started cooking a little bit, and I thought he could have had some success in this one. Do give credit to the Detroit Lions defensive line. I thought they did a really good job in this game.
Yeah, we saw a sighting from a couple of the high drive. I thought all 3 of the big edge rushers had certain plays, even though the Giants thing went off the rails. We saw Thibodeau have a couple good plays. Trevor Walker had a strip sack in this game, and Aiden Hutchinson had a couple of key plays, including a sack in this one as well. So that was cool to see. The Vikings thing is weird. You talk about the running stuff, like they had 17 carries in this one for just 22 yards. Their running backs did, Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. So, I mean, when your running back when your superstar Dalvin Cook running back is only getting 1.5 yards per carry, that is tough. But you're right. When it's kind of just started throwing the ball, things worked better. But too little, too late. Kyle, let's play the game. This is the theme of the episode. Of the looking at the schedules. The Lions play the Jets next week, then the Panthers, the Bears, and the Packers. I mean, feels like 4-0 is totally within question, and 3-1 feels, probable at this point. I think that gets the Vikings in. I think the Vikings are in.
Lions, you mean?
Yes. Yeah. Vikings are definitely in.
I feel pretty comfortable picking them over Carolina, Chicago, Green Bay, barring any injury stuff. We'll see what happens though in that. I think at New York next week is going to be a toss-up. But yeah, I mean, I think at this point, 9-8 probably gets them in the playoff spot because I don't trust Seattle to go 2-2 down the stretch. I just don't. So I think that'll be an interesting, coming down the stretch. I think the Giants have to find a way to win a football game, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, they've lost 3 of their last 4 and have a tie. So I don't know. I feel like that they can definitely jump those 2 teams. I definitely think that's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. A couple chat. Lewis saying, yes, Lewis, I will have a Lions video out tomorrow. Don't worry. It's coming. Gotta talk about that. I was like this comment of someone who's mad at us for always picking against the Panthers. We don't respect the Panthers. Sorry.
Yeah, they're not one of our first teams we pick. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I just love that. No matter what, no matter what we do, someone's gonna get mad at us.
Yeah, your fandom is great. I appreciate that.
No, yeah, to be clear, absolutely love people that get passionate about that stuff. It's the best.
Yeah, why don't you pick the Texans, man?
Yeah,
No respect for Houston.
yeah. And by the way, them beating the Buccaneers would not be that impressive. I don't think that's a great thing to brag about.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
What were we talking about besides this?
I don't know. Good stuff from the Lions.
Yeah, very good stuff. Very impressed with them. We'll see if they can keep this going. They're rolling right now, so it's kind of hard to bet against them casting those two teams.
Yeah. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off now with the Buccaneers Niners,
All right.
which was, not the most interesting game. Things got off the rails very quickly as Brock Purdy lit up this Buccaneers defense. That's probably the main story more than anything was how well Brock Purdy played, because the Buccaneers defense has played relatively well this season, had a couple of missteps now. But Purdy was fantastic in this one. Brady was not. Brady played. There's no getting around it. Brady played poorly in this one in the Blaine Gabbert zone. Couple of interceptions as well. This was a tough day from Tom Brady in a game where the situation itself wasn't that bad. I mean, guys were getting relatively open. The running game was, for its standards, solid in this one. I'm not saying that it's all on Brady, of course, but this was a game where, it just felt like a Super Bowl contender going up against a mediocre team.
Very much so. Very much so. I thought Purdy was awesome in the first half of this game. He dominated. I mean, first of all, it continues to go. Kyle Shanahan is a genius on offense. I thought everybody, it seemed like, made an impact in this game, whether it was George Kittle, whether it was Christian McCaffrey. I mean, Christian McCaffrey made more than an impact. He made a heck of, he was the best player on the field in this game. But yeah, Purdy, stepped up and made the throws when he had to, too. So I think that goes a long way. I thought he did a really good job in this game. He didn't seem phased from the moment at all. I thought he, read the defense well and picked them apart, kind of. And yeah, it was a mirror image of two different quarterbacks, right? Like, he was awesome, and Brady looked like he was kind of seeing ghosts out there a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of the worst games I've seen from, when Brady moved to Tampa. His accuracy has gone down sort of in his later years. That's something that he used to be so accurate. He has missed some throws in a Buccaneers uniform. That's okay. He's still done a lot to, the good obviously has outweighed the bad. This game, he was very inaccurate in this. This was, the accuracy just was not there. He had like an interception to Mike Evans where he just completely overthrows Evans. He also, on a fourth down play, had Evans was wide open as well, and he just completely underthrew Evans. Yeah. He then had, he underthrew Scotty Miller on a deep shot. So I don't know what's happening. Brady started off this year very well. Brady is not playing good football. Like, it's weird. We kind of joked about maybe after the divorce, he can focus and play better. Seems like the opposite's happened. Seems like his play has just gone down. And I'm not saying Brady's been bad this year necessarily, but Pro Football Focus has him as the 10th rated quarterback this season, and that's before this game. I imagine it's going to drop a bit. And if Brady's playing like a tier 3 quarterback, this Buccaneers team just does not stand a chance.
It really doesn't, especially as the injuries are piling up for the defense, and they really struggle in this game. I don't know, like I think we've spent enough time, I think, blaming the offensive scheme in the system, which still drives me crazy every time I watch this team. But the players also have to execute and play better.
Yeah,
right? Like at some point, you have to also start blaming the players. Like they know what the system is; they have to run it. So yeah, I do think that, a lot of this has to fall on Brady, and a lot of this has to fall on Evans, Godwin. I think some of these guys have struggled this year. I don't think there's been any way around it. So I think that, it hasn't been a successful year. This team is just a bad football team, in my opinion. I'm not going to, this is going to be the team that we all bet against on the first round of the playoff games, right?
Yeah, there's just still that voice in the back of my head of like, It is still Tom Brady, though, and he's done that a couple times to us this season of like that Saints game. It's like I was saying, I told you on the podcast about how I made a whole video saying that this season is over and that, this team doesn't deserve to make the playoffs even if they get in. And then I never posted it because they somehow came back and won. There still is that there's glimmer of, we've seen this happen before. He's the villain in the horror movie that has come back too many times that we can't sit here and totally say he's washed yet, even though, it doesn't look all logic points to this is a terrible situation and the Buccaneers are going to be one and done in the playoffs if they even get there. But there still is that you can never quite say definitively that's going to happen.
It's possible, but I'm just not expecting it anymore at this point. We really need to see a flip in the last few games of the season, right? Like, big game against Cincinnati next week. I think that's a really tough ask to go win that one. But I think down the stretch, Cardinals, Panthers, Falcons, that would be a really nice tune-up sort of schedule for this team to kind of get on some momentum and figure stuff out before the postseason. But they got to play better football. It's as simple as that. They need to play better, and I just don't know if this team has it in them right now, especially when the defense is all hurt and struggling, because that was the one thing that we saw was like, okay, at least the defense is good. The defense definitely didn't look good in this game. And then they had what's his face? Vega got hurt. Jamel Dean got hurt, who had been one of the better corners in football this season. If these guys continue to drop, I think it's just going to become a problem altogether.
Yeah. No. It's tough. And to be clear, I'm not expecting the Buccaneers to do anything this season. I'm just saying, I thought that Brady was dead when he was in his last year with the Patriots, and then we saw what happened the very next year. So I don't know. Maybe he'll go back to the Patriots and win a Super Bowl there.
That'd be sweet. I'd be all for it. Come on back.
I have a feeling. But yeah, just to reiterate, Brock Purdy. Kyle, I thought that the 49ers were going to be dead when Garoppolo got hurt. They got better.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
We'll see how this continues. He throws, his arm doesn't seem great. I got to say. It doesn't seem like he throws the ball very hard.
And that's one of the things that when I went back and checked my scouting report, I wrote, not the top thing in my notes, not an NFL arm.
Yeah. But, he's accurate. It seems like he has the timing down to this offense pretty well. So, those are going to go a long way. But, yeah, we'll see, especially if Debo is going to miss a significant amount of time, because that was the other thing. Debo had a pretty scary injury in this game.
Yeah. I've heard it's maybe not as bad as it looked, though.
Yeah, we'll see. But, if he, if he's going to miss time and going to miss playoff games, I think it's a little bit of a harder ask. But at the same time, who's to discount San Francisco at this point? They continue to play great football. And I think with McCaffrey back there, it's a whole nother element to this offense that's really tough to handle.
Yeah. And as people, talk about Heineke wins with a bad arm, and then also he's athletic though. Absolutely. Hey, it's working. That's a skill set and he's making the most of it. It's been exciting to watch.
Yeah. One more thing.
He's shown more than Trey Lance has shown.
He really has. He really has. So one more thing too with this McCaffrey thing. So McCaffrey, since joining the 49ers, has had 2 games, over 14 carries. I think they're doing a really nice job of limiting his touches, but he's also making the most of a lot of those touches too. I think he's had some pretty big games mixed in there too. This looks like the McCaffrey's that's the best running back in football, right?
Yeah, he had, on his rush attempts, 5.6 total EPA in this one. That's better than any receiver had in this game.
Yeah,
and he had another 3.3 in the receiving game.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, good stuff from the 49ers, obviously. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Titans Jaguars. Why don't we? This was a bit of a surprise. It wasn't the biggest surprise, but it was definitely I think a bit of a shocker how it looked early on like, okay, here's Derrick Henry doing Derrick Henry things. I remember Scott Hansen kind of made a joke like when Derrick Henry fumbled of like, oh, I guess he is human. But then Jaguars just got rolling.
They really did get rolling. This defense figured itself out quick. Trevor Lawrence is blossoming into a star before our eyes, I guess I can say. Is that fair?
Yeah.
He's played some really good football, it seems like, the last couple months of the year. There's still been the occasional dud, but the ceiling of Trevor Lawrence was shown in this game, right? Like we continue to see the ceiling of Trevor Lawrence, which is a fantastic football player. I mean, when you can 368 for 3 touchdowns is not nothing against this Titans defense.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, this was incredible. Incredible maybe is too strong, but this was very good from Trevor Lawrence. And you're right. He's just consistently kind of done this. And maybe incredible is the right word. Because, it was a very impressive performance, what he was able to do. And I mean, he's clearly been the best thrower that was drafted in his draft class, right? As was kind of expected when he was drafted.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the arm talent is certainly there. I mean, I think reading the defense and that sort of thing is the sort of the question marks that we had, and I think he's getting better at that slowly and surely. And I think they're going to be a trendy pick next year, right? This is going to be a fun AFC South pick, I think. This is a team that's going to get a number one wide receiver to go with all these guys. If they keep Evan Ingram, if they keep Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, all of a sudden, that's a pretty decent receiving corps when you put a number one receiver on top of that. Travis Etienne, not the greatest day today. I still think he has a lot of talent in the backfield. They have a young defense that flies around and they create some turnovers. They need a little more consistency. Then all of a sudden, this could be a real team next season.
Kyle, I mean, you're saying next season. This season's not over, Kyle. They're 2 games back. I was looking at it. Both teams play the Cowboys. So if you're going to assume both of those, and both teams play the Texans. So if you assume both of those are, 1-1 down the stretch, the Titans would play the Chargers as their other game, and then the Jaguars play the Jets. So it feels like if you can make up a game there for Jacksonville, that would mean that there'd only be a game back, week 18 against the Titans. Once again, a chance to get the division lead. It's possible. I mean, it's going to be tough, but it's possible.
Yeah, they would have to find a way to get to 8 basically, and then hope something breaks their way. Because, I mean, playing the Texans, we're going to assume the Titans get their 8th win. 1-3 is not unrealistic. This team has some issues, right? Like I know what is his name? Burks is going to come back from injury.
Treylon Burks. Yeah.
Treylon Burks. Thank you. I was about to say Trayvon. I'm like, it's not Trayvon.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we know Burks is going to come back from the injury, but this offense just struggles, it seems like at times. And I thought this passing game, Tannehill's raw numbers, like if you go 25, 38, 254, 2 touchdowns and interception, that's not a bad day passing the ball. But I didn't think it was a good day passing the ball either. It seems like it didn't seem like awesome numbers. It didn't seem like an awesome game from Tannehill. And we just haven't seen the consistency with this Tennessee passing game this season, which, it should be expected without A.J. Brown. But they really need Burks out there, and they really need Burks to make big splash plays because this team is just not explosive in the pass game without him.
Yeah. One thing that, someone brought up on Twitter when I talked about, hey, a Trayvon Walker sighting. That's cool to see. They said against Dennis Daly, who, as someone pointed out, has the worst, I believe it's the worst pass block win rate in the past 10 years. Poor Dennis Daly, the tackle for the Titans. Not ideal.
Yeah, that's rough.
And especially when the other guy, Nicholas Peter Ferrier, I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
Ferrier, I think.
Odd name, is currently Pro Football Focus's 66 rated tackle out of 77. So not great tackle play from the Titans this year.
He's a rookie. Give him a chance.
Sure, but just for this year.
Yeah, it's been rough. It has been rough. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what. So where are we at with the Titans? Obviously, this is a team that, I mean, they were 7-3 just a few weeks ago. We were talking about
they're the AFC Bucks to me.
Yeah,
they have name brand recognition, but that's all. They'll probably get the 4 seed and then lose in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, they just had that stretch where they started the season 0-2. Everyone was concerned. Then they go and win 7 of their next 8, and then they drop their next 3. I mean, it's just been a very bizarre season. It feels like, and I don't even know if it's that because I don't know how many good players there are in this offense.
Derrick Henry.
Yes.
Ryan Tannehill sometimes.
Yes.
Nick Brick-West-Akine, kind of like him.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. They can really use like an A.J. Brown type.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, I think this game. I think maybe it's like, oh yeah, that's why your GM got fired. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably the case. But yeah, I mean, it was just it's been a bizarre season. I don't really know what to think of this. I mean, we were talking about could Mike Vrabel win Coach of the Year again, and now it seems
Mhm.
like can this team make the playoffs is now a legitimate question.
But it's also, I mean, I do have to say, and we'll talk about it with the Giants in just a second. But I do have to say with the teams the guys were saying for first half, hey, these are the guys that should be coach of the year. I think part of it was because they were over exceeding what their talent level was, and now we're seeing kind of the luck factor fall back down, and that's why like that's a part of it.
Yeah, that is definitely the case.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to the Giants, who are another team who started off
Yeah.
strong. Really, for the Giants, I feel like their season comes down to next week if they beat Washington or not. That's going to be the key thing here. As this was a blowout, as I called, great call by me, locking up the Eagles. Just have to brag for a second, Kyle.
That was
As I
good.
mean, this was. I mean, again, the Giants are not a talented football team, and they can scheme their way into victories when they're playing against mediocre teams or bad teams. But when they're playing against a team like the Eagles, who should be the Super Bowl favorites, I think I feel pretty strongly in that. This is just what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean this Philadelphia team is just red hot right now, and yeah, I
Like
mean,
a couple of things in the chat. Daniel saying I won't mind if you skip us today. Joe saying be nice to us, Jackson. So Giants fans are down bad here.
well, listen, this is a more pro Eagles thing than an anti Giants thing because I
Uh-huh.
mean we had been skeptical of the Giants when they were winning football games. I think it's unfair to
Right.
then turn around and say, well, this team's just garbage. I mean, we kind of this is a team this is kind of who we thought they were, right? That's the Dennis Allen thing. I mean, we think it's an okay team, but they don't have the receiver talent to create explosive plays. They had one pass play over 20 yards. They don't have really the tools on defense outside of a few different players that I think are nice, but still pretty young and unproven. And I mean, they just got torched in this game. I mean, 8.2 yards per third of offensive efficiency, and you're never going to win a football game when you're giving up that sort of efficiency.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's. I think it's a little anti-Giants this game. Like I think that factored in a little bit, but I do think that you're right. The Eagles, when they're on, which is usually, I still think it's usually, they've just been dominant, and this is becoming a trend. It honestly really reminds me of the 2017 Eagles, right? Of this kind of quarterback who, this is year 3 for Hurts, but kind of the, comes year 2 as a starter, as a full-time starter, and kind of just all of a sudden takes this big step forward. And just I feel like the 2017 Eagles team, just every like 1 o'clock game, they were just winning by like 40. Like it was just like that crazy thing where they're getting those big
Yeah.
splash plays. This feels like that exact team.
It's having those moments. I mean, you look at the last 3 weeks, they've scored 40, 35, 48. I mean, that's pretty good for offense, for sure. Um, Jalen Hurts is number one in MVP voting, right? Right now. If you voted MVP today, I think he's number one.
I'd still go with Mahomes. I know, but I don't know. I feel like, listen, Hurts has been great this year. I still feel like Mahomes has the Chiefs are by far the still number 1 team in dropback EPA. The Chiefs are still the best team in terms of points per drive. Mahomes is the number 1 Pro Football Focus quarterback. The things that I tend to look at, Hurts has the passer rating thing, and Hurts has done a better job of taking care of the football, although not by as much as people would think. Mahomes actually still has been very good at it, despite the 3 picks today. I think you could argue either one. I think I still go Mahomes, especially when I factor in who Jalen Hurts is throwing to and who Mahomes is throwing to.
The supporting cast, I think, is going to be the big argument for Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
I think currently I have it Hurts, Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, Allen. That's my list right now. And I was just looking at those 5, like touchdowns, it's 35 for Mahomes, 32 for Hurts, Burrow, and Josh Allen. Total touchdowns. I think if you look at it, I think Hurts is first among those guys in adjusted completion percentage. I think he's also first in turnover worthy play rate. So I just think that I don't know. He's been fantastic this season. I think there's a lot of data that backs up Jalen Hurts as number one. I think you could really make an argument for Patrick Mahomes, especially when you look at his wide receivers and his running backs compared to Philadelphia, though.
I think they've both been great. I think this is a true race. I think whoever has the best end to the season, it's probably going to be the guy who wins it. I think either one could get it. I just think that for me, it is very close. I do think that I kind of view this of like if we were to swap these quarterbacks, which team do you think would perform better? I do think the Eagles would perform better. I think Hurts has been great, and they both played exactly as they had for this season. I do think that there's something to the fact that the Chiefs do still have the best offense. They have the best passing attack. Again, I know that's team stuff, but the way I see it, the Eagles have better situations, and that makes it more impressive for Mahomes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Right now, I listed 5, but I think right now, Hurts, Mahomes, and Burrow are basically clear cut above the other two for me. I think Herbert and
Mhm.
Allen are going to they'll make the ballot in the top 5 thing, but I think they're pretty far below, I think, those top 3 right now.
Well, they don't even do a ballot, right? They just do you get one pick because NFL is run by cavemen.
Oh, that's weird. Well, all right. Well, I think it should come down to those 3.
Yeah, I think so as well. And again, love Hurts. Big fan of Hurts. I want to give the Hurts MVP take. I don't think I can quite do it just yet.
That's fair. But I definitely think he's edged himself closer today, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're right. I think he is the guy who would win it today.
After today, definitely, because he was great and then Mahomes was not so great
Yeah.
at
Well,
times.
let's go to Mahomes. I mean, you're right. Mahomes wasn't so good. I do have to say though, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a Mahomes simp, Kyle. But I feel like yes, he had 3 turnovers in this game. He also had some absurd Mahomes throws as well.
Yeah, I mean, he had some incredible moments in this game. He really did.
Hmm.
I mean, he put the team up 27-0, so that's nothing to scoff at. But he also brought Denver back into the game with some pretty bad throws. So, I mean, I think you can counteract that. Mahomes was awesome in the first half, put his team way up, and basically made it, not a contest, and then really made it a contest towards the end of the game because he couldn't stop turning the ball over.
Right. Yeah. Not ideal. Right. No, this was. I don't know. It's funny though, because like you look at the net result in this one, and it's like putting up 34 on the Broncos. Like that's pretty great. Like no one's doing that against this defense.
Yeah. I mean, they looked really good in the first half of this game, right?
Uh
Like,
huh.
or at least like the first quarter and a half of this game. Like they looked really good moving the ball. They went up and down the field. It seemed like 4 straight times. All of a sudden, we're way up. And then, yeah, I mean, Denver's defense kind of figured itself out. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge credit to what Kansas City, game scripted to start this game. And I thought they did some really good stuff. And then, I mean, underhand passes for touchdowns aren't game script or whatever it was, right?
Yeah. No, it just absurd. I never get tired of it. I know some people get annoyed about the if Mahomes does this, the media goes crazy. I'm gonna go crazy every time he does it. It's great to watch.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, the crazy thing was this turned into a game, right? Like
Right.
it got a little interesting. You would have said if Kansas City got 20 points, this game was over. It was going to be
Uh
20 to
huh.
nothing Kansas City or something like that. All of a sudden, Russell Wilson puts together a couple pretty good drives, gets himself in the conversation. He does go out injured at the end, but I mean, wasn't this is the season's over, it doesn't matter, but this is promising signs from the Denver offense, right?
Yeah, I mean, man, it sucks that Wilson got hurt, right? Because like
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, this was the game, and I guess the flip side is maybe it's a little concerning by the Chiefs defense. I don't know that you
Yeah.
gave up 28 points to Denver, and some of it was to Brett Riplin, which it's interesting.
Ripping.
Whatever. Brett R. But yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson finally looked good in this one. We saw Jerry Jeudy lose his mind at one point during the game, but then played really well afterwards. So I guess that's what that's what he needed to get himself worked up or something. I don't know. But this was it was a fun game. Unfortunate that the Russell Wilson injury kind of took the wind out of its sails. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah, I thought it was a big thing. Hey, by the way, Brett Rippin's uncle won, I think, Super Bowl MVP. Put some respect on the name, man. But anyway,
Oh, my bad.
anyway, what was I saying? I got a little sidetracked there. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was better stuff from Denver. I'm fully willing to accept that if you're willing to say Kansas City got bored in this game. There's a very, very real possibility in my mind Kansas City got a little bored. But that being said, it's a little concerning that all of a sudden this was a chance for Denver had a chance to win this football game, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and also Kansas City. I feel like typically sometimes people will say this team got bored. It's like lazy analysis. Kansas City gets bored. Like that's just a definitive thing. Like I remember, what there's that one when they went 15-1. There was that press conference where Travis Kelce said like after the game, like, oh yeah, you got to give hats off to the Raiders. They're a good team, and they beat the Broncos. Like they don't even like it's just like completely not just coasting in the playoff. They're just coasting until the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it did kind of feel like that during the stretch, but I mean, what was it? They had 1, 2, 3 3 and outs in the second half and an interception too. I mean, it was definitely not a good game. But then all of a sudden they get the interception late. They go 10 minutes, they kill 4.5 minutes, end the game. So or 10 plays, kill 4.5 minutes, end the game. So they did what they had to do. They got out of there with the win.
Yeah. Speaking of getting out of there with a win, that's exactly
Huh.
how we would define the Texans Cowboys, which you and I made a points bet of if the Cowboys would cover the 16.5 point spread. They did not, but you know what? Feels a lot better barely beating the Texans than losing to the Texans. So you have to think that's good. As Dak Prescott, in terms of total EPA, was the third highest EPA had the third most EPA out of quarterbacks in this game behind both Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll. And only by the grace of Jeff Driscoll running the wrong way on a quarterback option play on 4th down and goal was maybe the difference in this game, which is just incredible stuff by the Houston Texans as Prescott, tried to give it away at the end. Kind of got, he hit as he started. It's hard to blame him, but the interception that probably should have put it away. Houston was not able to capitalize and score a touchdown. Dallas then goes down the field, gets the touchdown drive to survive and beat the apparently scrappy Houston Texans.
Apparently scrappy for sure. I mean, so I guess I guess you could say, look, every team is afforded bad games every now and then. And it's probably a
Mm-hmm.
good thing that Dallas's bad game still results in a win. They're keeping pace with Phil. They're still only 2 games behind Philadelphia. Winning the division is not out of the realm of possibility. But that being said, this was a bad game against the worst team in the league that hasn't looked like a real NFL football team in 2 months. They
Kyle,
ran
they
the
gave
ball.
3 touchdowns to the Browns last week.
Yeah, I know. It was really bad. I mean, the Texans were able to move things on offense, which didn't seem possible against this Dallas defense. I know at one point Trayvon Diggs got hurt, but I mean, it was not a sexy performance for Dallas by any means, and this felt like a game that they would be able to go in and kind of boat race the Texans, and it became a slugfest, and it came all the way down to the wire where they scored the game-winning touchdown with 40 seconds left. So very bizarre game for the Cowboys. They did get out with the win, though.
Kyle, this is a team that started Kyle Allen last week and then said, you know what, we're going with a 2 quarterback system and we're not going to use the guy that we started last week. That's where this Houston team is at.
Yeah. It was brutal. It was really brutal. I mean, I don't know. There was some weird stretches in this game. I don't like. Are we just? Is this really just going to come down to can Dak be the hot quarterback? Because it really feels like that's what it is. Like it feels like all the tools are in place, and we're just waiting to see if that happens.
Yeah, that's just why I don't know. I just can't talk myself into the Cowboys this year. I just can't do it. Like I get all the logic behind it, but it just feels like I don't know. If this team has to go put up 40 against a good defense, or against a good team, do they have it in them to do it? And are they going to be able to go on a run with Dak Prescott? It's certainly not if he's playing the way he's playing now, because he hasn't been great. I feel like since coming back from the injury, he's had his moments, for sure, but he hasn't been consistently. He hasn't been consistent since coming back from the injury.
Definitely not consistent. I mean, they had the Vikings game. They've had a couple other ones, but it's just like,
Sure.
yeah. I mean, it's really tough to tell what this team is sometimes. So yeah, I mean, the defense I think at times can be really good. It wasn't good in this game. I still believe this defense is a good defense. They run the ball well, but they really need this passing game to be consistent to be in the conversation. I think for Super Bowl, which is where they ultimately want to be. And the question is going to be if Dak isn't that guy. When do you try and find that guy? Because they paid him a ton of money to be that guy. And they need an Eli Manning type run. They need a Joe Flacco type run. They need a Matt Stafford type run to win a Super Bowl, because this is a quarterback driven league. And it's either you're the best quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, or you're hot. And they need Dak Prescott to get hot at the end of the season.
Yeah, but isn't that something too? It's like, it's kind of, it's almost like a survivorship bias type thing. It's like, it's hard to figure. It's easy to look back and say, oh yeah, Joe Flacco got hot, but it's hard to predict who the next quarterback that's gonna get hot. That's this tier 2 quarterback. I mean, there's like 5 quarterbacks every year, and it's like 1 out of every 10 years when it actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to predict, but you have to hope that's your guy. Otherwise, I
Sure.
mean, you don't have a tier 1 guy. It's pretty clear Dak Prescott's not a tier 1 guy, and it's pretty clear. I mean, I don't think he's ever going to be a tier 1 guy. So your hope is that he plays at a tier 1 level in the playoffs, right? That's the only thing you can hope for, and you put the talent around him to make that happen.
Yeah. Another
So
thing, I'll say this as well. We should mention this. They played the Eagles in 2 weeks. If they win that game, they will only have to pick up one more game because the Eagles lost to a division opponent in the Commanders. So if the Eagles lose one more game and they go 2-2 down the stretch, the Cowboys go 4-0. Cowboys could still get the 1 seed. So you could do that. Maybe that could be enough to get you to the Super Bowl.
it's definitely possible. How would you rank the NFC for me right now? I guess the top 5. Would you go? I mean,
NFC
Philly's clearly 1.
Yeah, Philly is 1 for me. It's tough because, this is the great day for Philadelphia. I think number 2 is the 49ers. I think San Francisco is number 2 for me. Number 3, I guess I go Dallas, and then I go Minnesota as 4, and then, I mean, do I go Detroit as 5? Like, is that crazy I think I might do, and maybe I even go Detroit higher. You know what? You could talk me into Detroit as high as 3, to be honest, with this, because I really, outside of the Eagles and 49ers, I don't feel great about any of these other teams.
I don't think it's crazy to say Detroit would be 4 over Minnesota.
I think that's what I do, actually. I think that's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Washington's still in that conversation. But I mean, they have the worst quarterback of that group by far. So, yeah, I mean,
but really good defense as well.
Yeah, very good defense. So I think that's basically the list, though, isn't it? Like, I think it'd be kind of crazy to say anybody else goes on a run besides those guys.
Not Carolina?
Not Carolina.
Okay, yeah, maybe not. But hey, yeah. So I'm kind of saying, like, much as we're talking bad about the Cowboys, you won the game, and that's all you got. Like, you survived. Every team does have bad games. Like, I think you said it perfectly. It's good when your bad game still results in a victory. Let's talk about Bills Jets. Weird game here. Another one of those, like, I thought Mike White showed some nice things. This was, wasn't as good of a game, but it's also like there's bad weather in this one, and also he was, he kept getting injured and coming back, so it's like it's hard to put too much blame. But even with that, I think he played solid in this one. It wasn't like a mess or anything like that. The Bills were the better team. The Bills defense really shut down the Jets offense, and they were able to get the victory. But I don't know what we learned from this game necessarily, but this is what happened.
I think the one thing we learned is who needs Von Miller, right? I mean, not seriously. I'm sure they'd like to have Von Miller, but AJ Epineza, Greg Russo, and Shaq Lawson all had big plays in this game. They were all pretty good in this game. I thought, they got 8 quarterback hits in this game. Like you said, Mike White kind of got beat up a little bit, but it's just so funny to me that this team that runs basically the NFL equivalent of a spread offense, like a spread basketball offense, is the Buffalo Bills, where they play in basically crap weather for the last 3 months of the year. Like, I don't really know. Like, is home field advantage actually a good thing for Buffalo? Because they have to throw in this weather basically the end of the season because they can't run the football. They really just can't consistently run the football. Josh Allen's the most consistent run option, it seems like, for this team, which I don't really love him taking all those hits. And it definitely affects the passing game when the wind's high, the snow's coming down, things like that, I think are really big problems for this passing game down the stretch.
Yeah. No, I do find it interesting. I think there was a take. Someone had a take like the Bills should build a dome just before Josh Allen, like to take massive advantage of Josh Allen. That would be an interesting thing. I don't know. It is very fascinating with the Bills and with Josh Allen. I don't know. I think that I would say that for them, it's kind of one of those things where you play in the cold, you get used to it, and it's almost like the Packers, where like yes, they had a great passing attack and they play in the cold, but that almost became an advantage because they could throw in the cold, whereas other teams couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like it sometimes, but at this time, I mean, he just wasn't very good in this game, and this offense really
No.
struggled. I mean, what did they start the game with 5 punts? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I believe both teams did.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the defense did play well, but we have much higher expectations, I think, for this Bills offense, and I think the last few weeks it just hasn't looked good. So I don't know, maybe they need like a temporary roof over the building, or
Yeah,
maybe
maybe you're
not
right.
because yeah, maybe not because the Bills fans will probably try and jump on it or something like that. But
Right.
you could do like a really big tarp, maybe I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, did they do the when Tampa Bay raised like try to do like that half in Montreal half is that do they need to have like a secondary stadium in like San Antonio or something?
I think that the solution is just to say there's a gas leak in the stadium and they can't play, and they have to
Uh
move. They can move to the like Alamo Dome for the end of the season. That's
yeah,
the solution.
that's it. Yeah, that's the solution. That you come here for the hard hitting strategic talk that we come with. I don't know. For the Jets, they're not a team that is they're a bubble playoff team. We talked about with the Chargers here. If the Chargers do go, end up winning 10 games, the Jets might have to go 3-1 down the stretch. They play the Lions, they play the Jaguars, they play the Seahawks, and they play the Dolphins. Like this Jets team they're a complete bubble playoff team at this point.
They really are. And while I think Mike White has done better things than what the offense was the few weeks before, it's still not great, I would say. I still don't think it's awesome stuff. I mean, the Bears game was very good.
Hmm.
But I mean, down the stretch, what felt like wins earlier in the season, I don't think Detroit and Jacksonville feel like sure wins anymore. That's for sure. I think those are going to be tough games. At Seattle, what maybe felt like a toss up or a loss, all of a sudden feels like a win for the Jets. And then at Miami, feels like it might be a loss. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, there are some tough games down the stretch for New York. This isn't an easy schedule to manage.
Yeah, what a bummer it would be if this team does end up falling out of a playoff spot. I mean, you kind of made the move to get rid of go away from Zach Wilson and go to Mike White, kind of as that we're here right now trying to win. So if you lose this, it almost makes you think like, where do you go from here?
Yeah, it is going to be interesting because they had what 3 first-round picks last year, and I mean 2 of them have been fantastic this season. I think what's his name came up with the Jermaine Johnson had the safety I think in this game too, didn't he?
I
So
believe so. It had
yeah,
some
I
hand in
mean
it.
you could you had some plus Brees Hall too in the second round. I mean he was good until he got hurt. So
Hmm.
you put a lot around this team. Do you trade everything of the future to try and get a quarterback? Do you pay a quarterback? I mean, how does that work going forward? Do you get Tom Brady?
I mean, yeah, that would be very fascinating. I don't know if he would go there.
I don't know. That'd be weird.
Hmm. That would. I hope that happens. If he's not staying with Tampa Bay, so I hope that that's where he goes.
That would make me so mad.
Well, that's why I want it to happen.
I'd rather you just come back to us.
Yeah,
Come home,
I
Tom. Tom, come home. It's
uh,
okay. We'll accept you.
yes. Couple games left to talk about. Steelers Ravens. Always fun when these two teams play each other. We had one team ended up with their backup quarterback, another team with their third string quarterback. Was the way this game went. So not exactly the games that guys they were expecting to play in this one. Trubisky actually played well in this one, I thought, but not quite well enough to win.
Yeah, besides those 3 picks, I thought he played well. Anthony Brown, I didn't realize made the NFL. I'll be honest. He was bad at Oregon. Like I didn't think he was
Gotcha.
good at Oregon, and
Hmm.
he was okay at Boston College before he transferred, I guess. But I didn't realize he made the NFL. Good for him. Keep thriving, man. But I mean, this was a J.K. Dobbins redemption game. He's back, baby. I mean, this was
Yeah.
coming off the injury, his second injury in 2 years now. And it seemed like this was going to be a tough year for him again. Huge game back. Wins this game for Baltimore, who's now, despite it all, keeping pace with Cincinnati. They're 9-4. They're still in the lead for the division.
I mean, the Ravens are going to make the playoffs. Like, they're 9-4. Like you said, it's like they only need like one more win to get in to play the Browns, the Falcons, the Steelers again, and the Bengals. They just go 1-3. That should be enough to get them in. They're going to be in. I don't know anything about this. Is always interesting when because watch more college football than I do. So some of these quarterbacks that pop up that I've never heard of, that you can give me the scouting report on. It's always fascinating. But it's just a weird game. It's just kind of like one of those. I don't really know. I don't have a lot of great insight in this one. It's kind of like they gutted it out.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. It was just kind of they ran the ball well. They got some points. They got ahead. And then they kind of just held on. They were up 13-7 and a half and scored 3 more points the rest of the game.
Hmm.
Mr. Trubisky turning the ball over definitely did not help. But yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, the defense, I thought, had one of its better games of the season. But, I mean, when Mitch Trubisky's in there, there's not really much the Pittsburgh offense it felt like could do. But yeah, I mean, it really is just going to come down to can they get that last win, which I think they should get one more win. But yeah, I mean, we'll see how that plays out down the stretch. Playoffs do feel like a lock to me. It just comes down to can they hold off Cincinnati for the division? I don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, I think that unless Lamar's healthy next week, then I feel differently about it. But it feels like depending on Lamar, I'm assuming Lamar is not going to be back right away. I think that eventually they will. But who knows? If Lamar gets back, that Week 18 matchup could be for the division.
Yeah, yeah, it really could be because I mean, they should beat. I was just had their schedule up. What is it? They should beat Cleveland. I think next week they should beat Atlanta, who's now playing a rookie quarterback. If Kenny Pickett's back, we'll see how that Steelers game goes, and then it comes down to Cincinnati at the end of the season. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think Cincinnati just seems like a buzzsaw right now.
Yeah, but the reality is too, the Ravens just go 2-1 in that next 3, then they would be guaranteed because they won the first matchup. So then they'd be guaranteed to just win Week 18, and you get it. So I think to me it all comes down to how healthy is Lamar.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Are the Steelers the least interesting team when Kenny Pickett isn't out there?
Yeah, probably. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they
Because
still
they're
got
not
some.
bad enough to be interesting in that way. Like the Texans are interesting because they're a mess.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like they got some fun receivers. That's about it, right? Like, there's really nothing else to talk about. Like their running game's lackluster. Their offensive line stinks. Good defensive players. There's some fun, stars on that defense. But yeah, I mean, there's just not really. It's a team that's kind of in flux, right? Like it almost seems like they just need to tear the whole thing down and rebuild almost.
Yeah, probably. I think that's kind of what they're doing.
Kind of slowly but surely. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they got some guys on defense that are gonna play for a few more years still. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. We'll see how it goes. Let's talk about the Thursday night game as another 16-3 comeback happened. Baker Mayfield. Oh, who would have thought?
Baker Mayfield is back. What
Yeah,
a game. Uh yeah, I mean, this has to be is this the worst loss of the season?
it was so funny because we talked about for the Raiders of on the night before on the Wednesday preview show you were like, no way the Raiders are losing this game. Look at all, and I'm like, I told you, Kyle, I've been following this Raiders team for way too long. Well, all the views that the Raiders fans give me, I've been paying close attention. This is the exact game the Raiders lose. There's no logic behind it, no reasoning behind it. The Raiders just always lose these games. Why does this happen?
I don't know. It was bizarre. I mean, I know that like this defense for the Rams is still good, but it was missing Aaron Donald. I mean, is is this the beginning of the end for Derek Carr? I guess in a Raiders uniform is a question. Like, I mean, the whole thing was like he's a Raider for life. He wants to retire here. I think there was something that he literally said, "If I'm traded, I'm retiring," or something
Mm-hmm.
weird like that, which I think is BS anyway. He's just
Mm-hmm.
talking out of his ass. But I mean, at the same time, like this was a legitimately awful performance against a team that looked, I mean, outside of the Texans, which weren't a real NFL team for weeks, looked like one of the worst teams in football. I mean, they have lost up until this game, they lost 6 straight games, 8 of their last 9. I mean, I just didn't know how this was going to happen.
Yeah. This feels like the front runner for Tom Brady, right? The Raiders were like apparently the owner wanted Brady last time, but the sort of the John Gruden wasn't a fan of it. You now have a situation where like I think you could get out of Derek Carr's contract. I think someone would. The Jets would take that contract probably. Maybe the Buccaneers do. Take the contract after. I think a team would at least take on the contract, if not give you assets for it as well. And then to me they feel like the front runner.
Yeah, that's almost a perfect fit, right? Like just send Derek Carr to Tampa and sign Tom Brady, and it
Right.
just works out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bad situation this year, and he started to turn it on a little bit. The Raiders talked us into it. We were all of a sudden ready to say, "Hey, this might all of a sudden be a playoff team," and then boom, just like that, it takes two late fourth quarter touchdowns from Baker Mayfield, some Baker Mayfield magic to basically knock the Raiders out of the playoffs. I mean, it's just about done now.
Hey, have you seen Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady in the same room? Can we
Um,
say for certain they're not the same person?
I'm sure they played each other once, right?
I'm trying to think. I can't think of one.
Yes, I was at a game. I was at a game in
Oh
person.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Freddie Kitchens was the coach. Oh my god, that guy was. He challenged. I remember that game vividly because I mean it was also my only time at Gillette Stadium. But he challenged an offensive pass interference call where the guy two-hand shoved the cornerback, and he didn't like the call because you could still challenge offensive pass interference
Right.
or pass
Hmm.
interference calls that year. He didn't like it that much. He still challenged it, and it was wrong by a mile. It was so Freddie Kitchens was an experience.
Yeah, that was that. Oh man, I miss Freddie Kitchens.
I don't. Is he still with the Giants?
I don't know where he is. Yeah.
No, he couldn't be. They changed staff. I don't know.
Yeah. We kind of touched on it earlier, but just give him his due. Baker Mayfield. Are we buying into the Baker Mayfield is back hype, or is this just kind of another Baker Mayfield? I don't know what's the expression, like all sizzle with no steak.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. I mean, the interesting thing about this game was like he practiced what? Like, I think someone said that like because of when he showed up in a Thursday night game, he basically had no like full practice reps. Like, it was basically like a lot of walkthrough stuff because of just the short week. So basically, he was just kind of able to. It felt like he was able to just kind of go off the cuff at the end of the game and just cook a little bit, and it worked. But I mean, he's basically playing for a job at this point. He's playing for his future. And I mean, I guess you can't count it out that he plays a little bit well. I mean, I'm not buying into it, but maybe he plays well enough to find himself a job next season.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, he'll get a job somewhere. Like, will he get a starting job? That'll be the question. But maybe this is a tryout. At the very least, you probably earned a backup job. Is this the best thing for Baker Mayfield? Should he stop learning playbooks? Should he just go out and play?
Yeah, probably.
He's all heart.
Yeah, that's basically what it is, right?
Mm,
Um, how bizarre. This was a weird game to watch.
yeah, dude, I don't understand it whatsoever. Baker Mayfield, though, it's just fun. I don't know why him wearing number 17. It just feels like, oh yeah, sure, 17. There's
Yeah.
like such like a non-quarterback number.
Yeah. It was just so weird to watch. Oh my god. I mean, it was unbelievable that this actually happened, and then he was able to go
We
down the stretch and just beat this Raiders defense. Which, I mean, I know it hadn't been that good this season, but like the guy hadn't practiced, and he still gave up 2 touchdowns at the end of the game. Like, just unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we literally joked about how this could be like a Josh Freeman thing if he got into the game, and he got to give him credit for coming into that situation and finding a way to get a win.
Yeah, this was a huge Bobby Wagner game too. I want to give
Sure,
him a
but
shot. I
every
mean,
game is.
yeah, I mean, but he was really good in
Mhm.
this game.
Yeah,
Like, he had a couple just plays that's like, okay, basically like two linebackers in the league can make that play. No big deal.
yeah, absolutely. Final game to talk about: Bengals Browns. I think one thing worth noting is we have it's not looked great with Deshaun Watson out there.
No. It was a little bit better today. He had some good throws.
Sure, had a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, I think we really kind of figured like was there really an optimistic approach that people had that was there really a thought that like Deshaun Watson would come back week 12 or week 13 and then lead the Browns to a playoff spot? Like that wasn't a real narrative we had, right?
Yeah, we were talking about that. This is
No.
revisionist history, Kyle.
I don't know. Like this, the guy hadn't practiced. He hadn't played. He hasn't played in 2 years. I mean, this is
I
all
believe he
definitely
has
a play for
practiced.
next practice a little bit, but he hasn't played a real NFL game in 2 years. Like this is all definitely a play for next season. I'm not judging anything on Deshaun Watson this year, football wise.
Yeah, but to say some things I'm judging him on. But yeah,
Yeah.
as Kenneth Lee says, has a super chat. Later, Raiders look horrible. Jeff Saturday, yes, appreciate the super chat, Kenneth Lee. Right, very good stuff. I mean that's fine. I don't know exactly how, but like the Browns played him for like 2 series in a preseason game and then shut him down. If you thought he was going to be this rusty, why not give him like a full preseason game?
That was weird. Why didn't he play all the preseason games?
Right.
He should have played every minute of every preseason game. Have him ready for the year.
Yeah.
Like what was the risk? I mean, yes, there's an injury risk, but he was also already basically missing the year. You might as well just give him every rep and hope that was, that was going to work out.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one. As someone in the chat saying Stefanski ... I mean that's Stefanski's certainly gotten some criticism this season. I don't know, but if this is who Watson is, if Watson's really this tough, I guess are we just punting on this season? At this point, you might as well. But like, I don't know. This was a game where if you win it, you're totally in the playoff spot.
I think you're punting on this season. I mean, there's just it wouldn't be fair for anybody to say, oh, yeah, he's just going to come off the street and be a good quarterback for the last 6 weeks of the season.
Baker did it.
But he had played this year at least. This wasn't like just, someone sitting out for 2 years and say, you know what, if Phillip Rivers came back and played awesome quarterback play for like right now, that would be really impressive.
I bet he
That's just not happening.
I don't know. I feel guys have, but I'm just trying to think about this. So when are we allowed to criticize him for bad quarterback play?
I'm just going to wait till next year. I think it's a punt. I think it's a punt. I really think it is.
Okay, but I feel like I don't know. We have seen guys miss an entire season and come back and then play well the next season, right? Like
Yeah,
Joe Burrow did it.
This is a year in 9 months. And
okay,
also,
is that the difference? 1 year is. I'm just saying. What's the rule here? What's the thing that we can say in the future? Okay, this is the line where after this, then you're going to be bad for 6 straight games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to end this right here because I don't want to become the Deshaun Watson defender. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like he wasn't practicing that whole time. He was practicing a little bit of the time, like the last few weeks up until he was able to return from suspension. And it's just real play reps is a whole different animal too. So I think it's not like he can get first team reps because Jacoby Brissett needs the first team reps because he's playing in the game.
Sure.
I just think that's really tough for him to all of a sudden step in and say, you're going to play football now. So yeah, I mean, now I don't feel bad for him because all of this is his fault. So
right.
It's not like, it's not like anything else along that, but I mean, I think that's a really tough situation to come into and be successful. So, yeah, I'm probably going to wait till next year before I judge the Browns at all.
No, and to be fair, I totally get what you're saying. You're not saying he deserves to be defended. You're just saying if we're trying to look at this objectively and come to the correct conclusion, that's the way you're viewing it. Which I can understand the logic behind. I still feel like though, regardless, 16 points in 2 weeks is not good enough. The Texans are doing better than that.
That is true. Texans did better than that today. Although if you take out their points last week, I guess that hurts it a little bit.
Right. The Cincinnati Bengals played in this game. They were able to get the victory. Defense looks sharp. Jamar Chase, a casual 100+ yard game in this one, as not the loudest game for the Bengals, but continuing to rack up their wins as, like you said, they're red hot right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing good stuff. They're getting healthier. I mean, Uzi is not coming back at all this year, but Mixon comes back. He was good in this game. Joe Burrow threw the ball 33 times and 15 were to Jamar Chase. He also got 10 of his 18 pass completions, which was a little funny. But yeah, I mean besides that, I mean, this was a nice win for the Bengals just because they haven't beaten the Browns with Joe Burrow. So that's a nice thing to kind of get off the schneid, but at the same time, they looked like a significantly better team. One of these teams looked like a Super Bowl contender, and one of them looked like a team not making the playoffs, right?
I think one of them is the Super Bowl contender, and one of them is not making the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
Mhm.
that's exactly what we watched in this game.
Yeah, definitely. These teams definitely look like they're not on the same level. I agree. All right, that's our games, Kyle. Quick Monday night preview as the Patriots fighting for their lives.
Fighting for their lives. I mean, yeah, they are fighting for their lives. So let's see what they can do this week. I mean, big game against Arizona. I mean, we've seen it now. Chargers win, Jets loss. It could be a three-way tie if this happens. Some injuries this week, so we'll see how that works out. Isaiah wins out, which might be a good thing. Jacoby Myers is out, which is a bad thing, and Damian Harris is doubtful, so that's probably not going to play. Um, we'll see. I they have the tools to win this game, but how can these linebackers keep up with Kyler Murray? That's a big thing for me.
Yeah, I think so as well. Kyle, let me know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK.
So of course, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your audio only feed on the Sideline Podcast, it should be available. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
Go Pats! Looking forward to Monday night. Did you watch World Cup?
A little bit. I cut that off. Yeah, I was rooting for it was the Netherlands, right, playing Argentina.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a bizarre game.
crazy game, wild.
Yeah, that was intense. I mean, there were some really good games this weekend. I mean,
Hmm.
the uh, the uh, the one before that. What is it? Oh, the Brazil made the big mistake. They
I
they
missed that
took
game. What
Croatia.
happened there?
They took Croatia to penalties. Croatia never loses penalties. I,
Okay, is that a
I
thing?
can't I can't explain why. Yeah, they do. They always
Uh
win
huh.
penalties. I can't explain why. I said Brazil looked unbeatable, and they did the one thing they couldn't do: take Croatia to penalties. Argentina blows a 2-0 lead, then all of a sudden wins. England and France. England dominates the game and loses 2-1. I mean, there was some really good stuff. And then Morocco. I mean, Morocco's given up one goal, and it's an own goal. They've scored every goal in their games this entire tournament.
There you go. Yeah, it's been a very fun fun World Cup. I'm looking forward to is it this make me a bad soccer fan to root against Messi, or is that a good soccer fan thing?
Um,
He scored and looks so smug.
Yeah, I mean, if you are a pro Ronaldo guy, I'm not a pro Ronaldo guy. I like Messi and Neymar more, but
So you're rooting
um,
for Messi to get his World Cup?
yeah, I would root for Argentina mainly because I don't want the rematch. Croatia and France played in 2018 final.
That feels like the most interesting final to me, right? Argentina versus France.
That's the most interesting, just because it's the most star power. Morocco making it would be awesome, just because I mean they're the first African side to make a
Hmm.
semifinal, and they
Right.
can make the final. I mean, that would be some crazy stuff. They're playing lights out. I'm worried if their center back, Roman Saiz, got hurt at the end of that game. I'm worried if he's not able to go, how that defense holds up. Um, but should be a fascinating game, that's for sure.
Yeah. All
Morocco's
right.
taking over the peninsula, so that's fun.
Yes. And what are those games again?
Okay, we got let's see, Tuesday afternoon, Argentina, Croatia, and then I think it's Wednesday afternoon for France and Morocco.
All right. So it should be interesting. Why did you do a third place game? What are we doing?
Honestly, nobody watches it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know why they still
Just do a
have it,
Pro Bowl
but
or something.
I don't know. They that'd be funny, like team of the
Hmm.
tournament. But yeah, I mean,
Uh-huh.
nobody watches it, but they want to give a bronze medal to somebody, I guess. But it's whatever.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, good. Thank you to everybody. We do appreciate it. Until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.